Let's call the October 13th meeting of the Urbana Free Library Board of Trustees to order. At this time, I'd like to have Michael Wiseman stand and face me. Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Library Trustee to the best of my ability. If so, answer I do.
I do.
We'd like to have you meet Michael Wiseman, our new library board member. Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've lived here since 1978. I've been a professor in the physics department. I'm retired, but I still hang out there and teach there and do a little research. And I've used the library all the time since coming here, especially when my kids were little, but still today. And very eager to see it continue to thrive as best it can in the current fiscal environment.
Thank you. Would we have a roll call?
Jane Williams?
Here.
Beth Shives? Hoppo? No. Chris Shearer?
Here.
Mark Netter?
Here.
Here. Jeff Bant?
Yep.
Michael Weissman?
Still here.
And Ann Merrill.
Is there a motion to approve the attached agenda? Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, on the consent agenda, we have the board meeting of the September 8 and the closed session of September 8. The payment of bills of September 4, September 9, September 18, September 23, October 2, and October 7. All approved.
Some of
Okay.
those are payroll bills, not bills. I mean,
Oh, there were payrolls alternately, besides the other bills, but they were all bills. Yeah, thank you, Jane. Moving to the petitions and communications. Didn't I take a vote?
No.
Oh, all those in favor, please say
I
aye.
need a first and a second. You approved the agenda, now we need to approve the consent agenda.
do we have a
You're
motion?
right, you're right, you're right, you're
I
right.
move approval.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Same time, negative. Okay, now we can go into. From petitions and communications, public comment, I see no public. Well, there's public, but you're not wanting to speak. So let's move to the presentations, and I've been waiting breathlessly for MC's presentation. The technology plan, you have it in your packet.
As have I. As I know, most of you are familiar with the current tech plan. Instead of spending a large amount of time going over every aspect, I'm just going to focus on the changes we've made from the current tech plan to the potential replacement you have in front of you now. First off, we changed the format of the tech plan. We adjusted some line spacing, removed a lot of dead space on many pages. Just tried to go with something that was a bit cleaner, had a better flow to it, and that resulted in a reduction of the 15-page current tech plan to 10 pages that you have in front of you now. We also changed the objective names, the naming convention. Previously, everything in every section was O something. So if you were referring to O3, no one knew if you meant the one in section F, G, H, things of that nature. So in this new one, they are in line with the section they're in. So the third objective in section F is F3 as opposed to another O3. We removed two areas in the tech plan. The first was the introduction. The introduction in the current tech plan is on the second page, and it states this technology plan covers fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 15. And if you look on the first page of the tech plan, it says technology plan fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 15. So it seemed a bit redundant to have the same thing on the second page that was already on the first page. So we removed it. And we also removed the section for infrastructure. From the objectives that were in the infrastructure section, some of them were completed, which I'll get to shortly. Some things we moved to different sections in the tech plan because they just seem to make better sense there. Some things we moved to duties. And the things that were remaining seemed more to be day-to-day operational tasks than 3-year tech plan objectives. And so once we removed those, there actually was nothing left in the infrastructure section. So we just went ahead and removed that. In the future, if it makes sense to add that back, we definitely will. But presently, it just seemed logical to get rid of it. In the history section, we added our RFID implementation, and we made a small addition to the job duty section also. We figured many people would know what the library board was and what the IT manager was, but not necessarily what the tech committee was. So we added a brief description explaining what the tech committee is. Current tech plan was approved a little over 3 years ago in August 2012, and we've done quite a bit since then. I'll just quickly run through some of the objectives we removed from the plan you have in front of you because we've since accomplished them. We implemented ceiling mount projectors for public use in the conference rooms and auditoriums. Here we also added a wall panel to allow for easier connection. Before we had a wireless transceiver and receiver box that wasn't very user-friendly. All in all, patrons are very appreciative of the projectors and they are getting very high usage. We migrated to an electronic monthly newsletter to replace the printed version. We are now getting the newsletter in patrons' hands sooner and of course saving money in printing costs. We implemented a battery backup system in the server room, which keeps our mission critical servers online and up and running during brownouts and even short durations of power outages. We implemented separate home pages for the public computers. Archives goes to genealogy database page, adult services goes to the main home page, children's goes to a custom home page that has links to Nickelodeon, Disney, things of that nature. Ultimately, it just allows us to have a more customized experience for the library patrons when they're on the public computers. We debuted a new website featuring Drupal content management system. Each department has their own section as well as blogs. Multiple users are able to log in. They can collaborate on content, administer sections simultaneously. We implemented a ticketing system for technology issues. Prior to that, staff would call, leave voicemails, post-it notes, things of that nature. Wasn't the best system. Now there's one centralized location. People are able to report their issues, see if someone else has reported it, tracking updates and the resolution. We began providing e-readers for loan to patrons. We have many nooks with different genre collections we loan out to patrons. Definitely a high-use collection. And increased bandwidth to ensure an adequate amount for staff and patron use. As websites were getting more content heavy, adding additional features, streaming higher quality videos, we found that the amount of bandwidth that we had was just insufficient. Staff were having connection issues, patrons were complaining. We actually went ahead and doubled our bandwidth from 25 megabits per second to 50 megabits per second, and things have been very pleasant since then. We improved our data backup procedures. We now have data being backed up almost immediately. So if a file does accidentally get deleted or overwritten, staff will only use possibly a few hours worth of data as opposed to a couple of days of data. It's now spread across multiple hard disks, so should one of the file server hard disks fail, we'll still have backup. And we also have off-site backups should a natural disaster strike here. We have copies elsewhere. And we have an improved file restoration system that was put in place that allows me to recover wrongfully deleted or overwritten files in a fraction of the time as what I had to do before. And as I mentioned, we implemented RFID, which allowed for faster material checkout and check-in, as well as our self-checkout kiosks. We migrated to a more robust email system for staff. Our previous email system was very limiting and very problematic. We migrated to Microsoft Office 365 and have had substantially better experience. We increased the number of public computers we had available. migrated from Windows XP and Office 2003 to Windows 7 and Office 2013, strengthened the wireless coverage throughout the building, and as of last month, implemented wireless printing for patron usage. With that, I will move on to the new goals and objectives that are in the tech plan you see in front of you. I know I mentioned we implemented a ticketing system. It actually is a forum, which is not made for a ticketing system. It's, again, leaps and bounds beyond what was here before, but we want to go with something that is a dedicated, specialized ticketing system. Something that can automatically notify users of updates, something that can keep better historical data, run reports, even something that can do asset management. We want to implement a 5-year replacement cycle. We actually had systems here that were 10 years old, still in service when I first started. Systems this old just had many issues. They don't provide a good user experience, and it takes more of my time to maintain and support them. So going forward, anything that's older than 5 years will be replaced with the new system. We will investigate an electronic statistics compiler. Our service desk keeps stats of their interactions with patrons, and there are multiple ways to help patrons electronically via email, in person, over the phone, and then within each of those areas, how exactly did you help the patron? Was it a directional question? Was it a reference question? Did you help them with a computer-related issue? Right now, staff is keeping tally sheets and manually compiling things. So we're hoping to move towards something that's electronic and automated. And investigate the use of scanners with Polaris to autofill patron data. Polaris has a wonderful feature we want to investigate, and with this tool, a person registering as a new patron can hand over their ID. The circulation staff can scan that ID, and it will auto-populate the fields within Polaris. It will save staff members time from inputting the data, and also will help prevent any data entry errors. Explore options for online employment application. Currently, our employment applications are strictly hard copies. We have an electronic version posted online, but someone has to print it, fill it out, bring it in. If they forget to fill something out, if their handwriting isn't legible, we have to get back in contact with them. They have to come back out. And then the people that are involved with the hiring process for that position are having to pass the copies of the applications around back and forth. With the online application, people will be able to fill them out and submit them anywhere they have internet access. If they forget to fill out a certain section, the system would alert them, and anyone who needs access to the application would be able to log in individually. And also, we would no longer need to keep the previous year's worth of paper applications in the filing cabinet as we do right now. Investigate options for electronic timesheet. Similar scenario here. We currently use hard copy of timesheets. People have to print off a copy, fill it out by hand, track down their supervisor. And with an electronic version, everything will be online. Supervisors will be able to log in and approve everything at once. Everything will be totaled automatically, as opposed to Becky having to total everything by hand now. And if someone, for instance, tried to use 8 hours of vacation, but they only had 6 hours, it would alert them, do not let them submit their timesheet. And we will be able to get rid of the 2 years worth of timesheets that we currently keep in the filing cabinet. Implement replacement for current intranet. Our current intranet is a very simple one-page HTML document that management has editing rights to. The replacement will be a content management system along the lines of our main website. So it would allow people to collaborate, to post simultaneously. Each department would have their own section within the intranet, and overall just give access to a better experience, more tools, things of that nature. Accommodate patrons with disability. We will ensure that we have multiple computers that are wheelchair accessible, as well as multiple computers with screen readers and large print keyboards for visually impaired users. as well as trackballs for patrons who may have issues using a traditional mouse. We will investigate options for public and staff to create audio-video production. We will look into installing software on the public computers to allow audio-video editing and movie making, having hardware to allow patron-owned recording equipment to interface with our computers, and possibly having equipment available for checkout, such as video cameras. Investigate providing 3D printer for public use. Currently, we have one available in Teen Open Lab, but we want to have something that will be readily available to all patrons. Investigate expanding the circulation tech collection. I just mentioned video cameras, also digital cameras, laptops will be part of this collection to go alongside the e-readers that we allow patrons to loan, to check out. And investigate solutions to offer reference services through instant message and text message. Give additional and possibly more convenient and possibly preferred access to our reference services to our patrons. And developing a tech plan, it obviously involves many things. There's financial planning, goal setting, evaluations, marketing, but many times the first step is a needs assessment. And many of the things that we added as new objectives to the tech plan actually came from the EDGE assessment that I previously presented on. So we are absolutely using the data that we obtained from the EDGE assessment. And in addition to that, by the end of this fiscal year, we will be doing a patron technology survey. So we'll be able to see what we're doing right and possibly not so right in the eyes of our patrons, and see what their needs are and their wants, and ensure our tech plan is in line with the desires of the community. Lastly, just wanted to quickly emphasize this is definitely a team effort. The tech committee met every other month, had dozens of email threads going back and forth. They brought tons of energy and ideas to this tech plan. They were beyond instrumental in everything coming together, and so I definitely want to thank them for their efforts. And with that, are there any questions?
MC, the first thing that you have got is a 5-year tech plan for hardware and software. Might there be demand for one of those to be less than 5 years? Or, I mean, you've kind of grouped them together.
As with many things technology related, it is difficult to see 5 years out, even.
It sounds
2 years
very far out.
sometimes. But historically, that 5 year has right been on the cusp, on the threshold of being able to maintain hardware that will still be able to keep up with today's demands. Also, if you look at the life cycle of operating systems, they're generally around that same range. If you look at the longest extended warranty you can get through hardware manufacturers, it's typically 5 years. So everyone knows that generally you can go about 5 years before things kind of start to go belly up. I am getting new hardware that is above today's requirements, sort of having that foresight that this is something that needs to last 5 years from now. And if we get 3 years out and find out for some reason that isn't adequate enough, we'll adjust and make do. But I think 5 years, I think we should be.
And I guess the thing I'm hearing, hardware we know will probably work at 5 years. Software sometimes may have to be updated quicker than that, right?
Possibly. The biggest thing would be the operating system,
Okay.
and Microsoft generally goes in the 4 to 5 year replacement cycle. Windows XP, they went for much longer than that.
Okay.
Just because the following operating system just had issues. But generally, if you're staying with the same operating system, the actual programs that go along with that operating system, you should be able to get the same amount of life out of that
Okay.
as you do the operating
Bill,
system.
you have a question?
Yeah, on the, you said our network speed is 50 megabits, whatever.
Yes, sir.
Are we connected to ITV3 or any kind of fiber
We do have a fiber connection. We are not getting fiber speed right now. So ultimately, we have this huge pipe and a trickle of water going down it. So we are connected via fiber. But again, that's just the path we're taking. So we have another example, a 6-lane highway, and we're on one of the lanes. We are looking at ITV3. They had a bit of restructuring they had to do in the area. They had a whole bunch of customers kind of all try to sign up at the same time, so they're having to adjust for that. We're hoping to hear from them any day now. Right now, we're using our original internet service provider, ICN, Illinois Century Networks, I believe it stands for.
And then with higher speed connection, will that help with, say, broadcasting AV programs that are occurring down here, and even for our meetings, be able to install some maybe roof-mounted cameras or something? So they don't have to lug the camera back and forth every week or a month?
It would be instrumental in that. Right now, we're definitely at a capacity where we could do something standard definition, but if we are trying to get something high definition, we will need a bit of a bump in the bandwidth. ITV3 is actually going to provide us more bandwidth for less money than what we're paying ICN right now. So we will definitely have above what we need to be able to do that and then some.
Just one final note on that. I know there's also some grant money that the U of I received or is in line to receive for some high-speed application development, kind of how to use these high-speed networks better and in creative ways and stuff. So it's just something maybe to keep an eye out for and try to get some students to work with, either for things that the library can do or just to be a partner with them somehow.
I will definitely do that. Thank you, sir.
Michael?
Is the reason that the current network, which has a lot of hardware capacity, is only a trickle, just that they want more money for more than a trickle?
Correct.
Just want to make sure I understood about that.
Yes.
So I was looking at your, how you get feedback or input. So you review unmet technology needs, you review software, you review equipment requests, developments of partnering agencies, and so it seems to me, I'm just talking, but it seems as though you're trying to meet needs. Is there any module that would allow you to be aware of best practices, like in the library world? So that rather than wait till people come and say, I need to do this, I need to do that, is there any mechanism where you would be, apart from just your general, knowledge and, investigation, that you would be exposed to libraries like ours doing interesting new things that maybe haven't been called on to do yet?
The best I know of right now actually would be that EDGE assessment that we just went through. In addition to giving us a score, it gave a large range of what other libraries, both are similar size and all libraries, what it is that they're doing. And so you can kind of see how many libraries are adopting a certain technology, when it's going to reach that tipping point, kind of figure out when it's going to be commonplace and it's just going to be an expectation of the patrons. Aside from that, I know different conventions like ILA and ALA, they'll have certain sessions where they'll feature certain libraries that are doing something new and innovative, and they'll do presentations on that.
Would you be attending that kind of stuff if it was?
I have not, but I would love to.
I knew there was some looking. Mark?
In terms of having the groups looking at what's out there, do you have any outside, not people who are not on the library staff, do you have any outside people on this committee, this evaluation group, or the sort of prospecting for the future?
There is not. Currently, the tech committee is strictly internal to the library. We're hoping to get, I'm not sure if Kathy wants to speak on it, but I believe the hope of the survey is to get both our patron base and even some people who are not active patrons to see maybe It is something that we're not providing technology-wise. That is the reason they're not a patron. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of those, some of that external input. But currently with the tech committee, it is library staff members only.
In identifying community and staff needs, E through says non-users. So you've set your goal, so we've got to find a way to get at it.
Absolutely.
The software like the timesheets and things, is that compatible, is our system now compatible with the city system that handles time recording?
That is why it is currently in investigation. We are in a bit of a holding pattern to see what the city is going to be moving to. We wouldn't want to move forward with a timesheet system that works with the current setup we have,
questions?
and move to something that is
Okay.
no more compatible, but I don't know.
So that's in abeyance right now, depending on where the city's going.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. That's the right answer.
Technology needs in light of developments at partnering agencies.
Yeah.
The city just approved to purchase, or they haven't actually done the RFP, but and it's in the budget to replace the entire accounting system, so I imagine the library will be pretty involved in that too.
And Becky said it on some of the initial evaluations of what is available in the world to see what to put into the RFP.
Has the drop boxes at the front door always been a computer problem? The reason we've never implemented it use?
No.
Because this one statement here that we're going to, the lockers in the Green Street entranceway is a goal, and I've wondered why we have never implemented. I've never asked the question.
It is my understanding that those nighttime pickup lockers weren't implemented because at the time, there were homeless people who were using vestibules at agencies that kept their doors open as sleeping places. So that if a patron here came to pick up their nighttime pickup, they might have an issue getting to the locker without interrupting someone's sleep. There had been someone sleeping at the city council building regularly in the vestibule. And so that was one of the concerns.
Okay, I thought maybe it was because it was in this. Maybe it had to do with computers, so, okay.
In terms of 5-year horizon, it looks like some of this software is going to be subscription-based now, right? Office 365, I presume the operating system?
There are a few. Fortunately, with our Office 365 subscription, through my constant pestering, I was able to get us free licensing for that.
Congratulations.
So it is license-based, but it is at zero cost to us. And there are other softwares that are annual subscription-based, yes.
Okay. And you don't need to describe them, but you mentioned patrons bringing their own computers in to interface with our systems. I presume you have really good security in place to
Absolutely.
keep problems down. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I
This
think
is really
you've set a
lot of
tremendous
information.
goal for yourself here as far as equipment replacement fund. We've been talking about that for the last 15 years. I hope you can develop a budget that would be reflective of our needs down the road.
That is the plan, sir.
Well, and I think we have to help that too in terms of the budget.
Oh, I know, but we
Because-
talked it.
Yeah, because you pay for either pay for the hardware or you pay for somebody like MC,
Absolutely.
who's now maintaining 6 or 7 different operating systems and platforms,
Absolutely.
and efficiency goes out the window when you're doing that. So,
Couldn't have said it better myself, sir.
Are there other questions?
you can take it up for some coffee afterwards.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you.
putting
This
this
is a great
together.
report
Yes.
and great work.
Anka,
Next,
your per capita grant requirements.
gonna switch gears. Mostly. As you saw in your packet, I provided a written summary of how the Advanced Library provides educational programs and training opportunities, and how it meets the many needs of the patrons throughout the year. So I will speak to that. And then there is a second component to this particular per capita report that will also include not just my short, brief presentation, but also a discussion possibly. And I look forward to that too. As I said, as you can see from my written summary in the packet, again, the Urbana Library provides numerous educational programs and training opportunities. Just some recent statistics, in fiscal year 14, we offered 765 programs and had close to 28,000 attendees. In fiscal year 15, we offered 867 programs and had over 30,000 attendees. And for fiscal year 16, we're moving in the same direction. Depending on the activity and programs are developed and coordinated by the talented staff here at the Urbana Library, and the individual departments work in collaboration with each other. Additionally, our programs are made possible and most certainly are enhanced by our community partners and supporters, either through direct financial support, but more often, very often, by presenters, individuals, groups, and organizations that offer to volunteer their time, talents, and resources, and do so generously and repeatedly. We are very, very lucky. Throughout the year, we are contacted by community members who want to work with us to develop programs. When we are the ones reaching out to ask to work with these individuals or organizations, we are met with creative energy and enthusiasm, which we all know is plentiful in our community. Did I say it already? We and our patrons are very, very fortunate. And as you can see from the summary, the library does a fantastic job in many areas of educational programming and training opportunities through the many programs and resources it provides. But we know we can always do more, and especially by enhancing what we offer in the area of digital literacy training, skills that have relevance in all our departments, and to the communities we serve. MC Neal's EDGE assessment and report that he presented last month did a fantastic job identifying our current offerings and what we hope to develop in the near future. Another relevant piece of information is how do we find the resources to support this programming schedule in addition to working with our community partners and presenters that often, again, as I said, volunteer. Here in the library, I would say we offer these outstanding programs first and foremost through our talented staff. Many presenters will volunteer their time, and of course, a programming budget, albeit small, which funds supplies and presenters. And just to give a few figures, and again, keep in mind the many programs we've offered in the last 2 years and the many, many attendees we have served. The programming budget, which essentially helps support paying presenters and also pays for some materials. In fiscal year 14 was $8,400. In fiscal year 15, it was a little over 12,000. And in fiscal year 16, despite the fact that we had to obviously trim our budget in other areas, we were able to maintain a budget of almost $12,000 for programming. As you know, as you can see, with that kind of money, we depend on a lot of other support. And I would say too, in addition to the money in our budget, we do receive some funds from our trust funds that support our programming, and other direct financial support from generous supporters in our community that allows us additional programming. But I think what's also really important when looking at these programming budgets, not reflected in these budgets, of course, are staff costs, which are significant, and which include the work of the fabulously creative, talented graphics unit. Our programming and our promotion for programming couldn't go without it, which presents stunning posters and PR and print and online to alert patrons of our events. And additionally, our active social media presence maintained by many members of our staff also does much to keep the community informed of our schedule. And again, that does not include the staff time that develops and coordinates all those programs. And again, thinking back in fiscal year 14, there were 765 programs. that staff in the various departments organize. It's significant, and it's an amazing contribution. At this point, do you have any questions about programming?
Yeah.
And I might have to call on some of
Well,
other
what
staff.
percentage would you say right now our programs are generated by the staff versus coming from requests from our public?
I don't know what the percentages. I would say the majority of programs are generated by our staff.
Because it seems to me like we have probably not, and maybe I'm wrong, involved our auxiliary organizations such as the foundation and the Friends in developing program that would support our program. I mean, they do their own thing, but we have not necessarily reached out to them and say, help develop programs. Probably the money is the reason, but is that not true? Or have we?
I'm not sure if that's within their
Can you-
missions.
Right.
The Friends and the Foundation.
I mean, I don't know what all they could do. I think Friends would probably come closer to finding programs that we should probably get involved with, easier than a
And
foundation.
they have some.
So, when any community member says, I think you should get involved in a particular thing, we'd like to have a speaker on whatever topic.
Yeah.
We take that into consideration and try to have a program like that if we see, but primarily staff, paid employees are the ones running the programs, or developing a program and then bringing in a volunteer speaker. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
So we don't ask the foundation, for example, to do story times. But on the other hand, staff have developed the concert series that the foundation does fund.
That would be the one example that, yeah.
And 2 concert series, the one for Prairie Breezes for the youth and the UFL Live for the Sunday concerts for all ages.
I guess deep down, I'm thinking that Friends could contribute more in this area maybe than they do. I mean, right now they run a fantastic book sale, and I don't want to take away from that, but I just think that they're out there in the community and might be able to help us develop a program, which I feel very strongly about.
It depends if you mean program like lowercase p events, or if you're thinking program like the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program and initiative. So again, we are looking for community partners that have ideas about programs or initiatives to offer to the community. And the Friends have been very, very forthright that their main interest is literacy. So they want the Friends book sale money to be spent on books, and the Friends book sale money pays for the books as the summer reading giveaways. And again, the giveaways that will be given away during the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten initiative. So that has been their focus, is the fundraising for literacy initiatives. And they've been generous with,
Yes, they've been generous.
with literacy initiatives.
And that to me falls within the area of this report of providing training opportunities, educational opportunities. So to me, that is a direct support of that initiative, that the state wants us to be involved in.
Michael?
MC mentioned that we might get a 3D printer. That's on your list somewhere. If I understand right, some libraries, a few around the country, have programs trying to encourage young inventors to work with 3D printers. Is the programming and the acquisition of the devices coordinating, so they could have a program like that?
Well, we actually already currently run a teen open lab 3 days a week. And it's a maker space, a fab lab, and the students actually have had access to a 3D printer for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And other software, recording software, audio, video, music, sewing machines. It's a pretty great place.
But the public, generally speaking,
Yes,
does
does
not
not.
have access. It's 3 days a week in this window of time for that particular age group. And so part of what we're looking at is how can we broaden the impact of having that technology available to our public more days a week, more hours of the day, and the whole age groups. What does that look like? Because the other things came through in part grants at the U of I and have particular focal points to the grant. So yes to that.
Your next orientation session, we need to bring you to one of those.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I mean, the teen overlap is a fantastic example of how we collaborate
Yeah.
to make something available. This is not something we could have made available on our own, and also not just the equipment, but also volunteers from the UVI, from the Graduate School of Library Information Science, and some other programs that have continued to be here, 3 days a week, and are kind of they're like this is a happening space in the afternoon. So,
I'm just impressed. I mean, the number of programs, we average more than 2 programs a day. Yeah, 360 or so days a year that we're open. That's amazing, given the size of the library, the number of staff that we're able to create that kind of programming.
Jeff?
It's probably in those statistics, but how do we compare to Champaign, other libraries our size? Are we doing as much, more, less, in terms of this kind of activity?
I'm not sure, because Champagne's twice our size. So I can get you the number, and I do look at those, but off the top of my head, I can't give you an apples to apples right now.
Just in light of all the statistical analysis, it would be interesting to see maybe we're way over the top.
we can look at that, and I think what would be interesting is to look at an institution that is very similar to our budget and the population we serve, and obviously showing our stakeholders if we had more, we could do more, right? Because I'm sure Champagne's numbers are higher, but again, they have a different budget.
Of course, when you're able to do more with less.
Hmm?
Of course, when you're able to do more with less, what the
And we
result
do.
is there.
And we do a lot.
Yeah, I know.
But I think if we look back a few years ago, we are doing more programming. Yeah, we really are. So I think that's,
Yeah, it wasn't that many years ago. This was just a book
Just,
place.
yeah.
Three
Here we
books
go.
and-
It's kind of small, I'll look and see. The other thing we do, Anka mentioned staff time. We budget into the librarians, primarily the librarians' work week, so many hours a week that they would be on the public service desk, serving public in that way. And they get so much off-desk time to work on special projects and order books and things like that, as well as we bank in so much time a week. We know they're going to be serving the public by doing programming. So we know that Joel is going to be doing 3 hours a day at the Teen Open Lab, for example. Joel and Amber used to split that. And we know that the children's librarians are going to be doing so many story times a week. So when we look at what our expectations are of their time, we budget in time for programming, prep time as well as execution time. Because it's important, but that's what she's saying, that the numbers when we talk about programming, that's supplies and hiring outside speakers. It doesn't speak to the staff time as well. But
I imagine
we are here to
it's
serve, but that's part of service.
keeping statistics on those kinds of things is going to be a challenge. There are no general definitions of what an event is necessarily, and all of those things you just talked about. So.
I'm looking to see programming.
Any other questions that you'd like to? Thank you very much, Anka.
I have one
Oh,
more.
one more.
There's a second piece to
Oh.
this report that also includes you, and I'll read again the second section of this particular grant. It's actually addressed to the trustees. The library board, having previously analyzed the library's finances and fiscal climate, will identify and describe how library funds are used to support educational programs, training opportunities for patrons. The library board and staff will engage in a discussion on how the library fosters resource sharing, and it will provide an example of how the library has expanded or improved resource sharing towards patrons. And I thought, to whatever extent we can have some of the discussion now, just to give a few examples, and I thought just by mentioning it, some resources that would fall within that category that extends our resources to our immediate and extended community. We participate in interlibrary loan. We make our resources available outside of the library. we participate in reciprocal borrowing. We have expanded just this year our resource sharing to our community by increasing renewal times for our materials. So these are just some examples of how we might resource share. And then I just thought, I can use this as a little plug for the archives. I feel very strongly, mostly because I try to work and collaborate with organizations outside the library, both to connect our community to them, but to connect all of us, and to allow us to serve the community together. So I feel that offering programming with and in our community is an important example of how we extend the reach of our resources and the expertise of our staff. Interesting. So this is a program, actually, that's happening this Saturday. I have an ongoing collaboration with the Student Life and Culture Archives at the Urbana, at the University of Illinois. This is a program that we coordinated where we're working with 6 other institutions to engage our community with each other in different programs. And I'll finish off with one last thought. This is the full series, the Town and Gown series. And we'll also have another program in November called Champaign County Blueprints, Exploring Local History Through Architecture, which will be led by Brian Adams and PJ Blakeney. This will share resources from our collection with our community, and in turn invite other partners into our institution.
Are you on the Town and Gown committee here?
Actually, it's a partnership between myself and Ellen Swain at the Student Life and Culture Archive. Ellen and I had known each other for a number of years and had always talked about ways that the university and us, or our archives, could collaborate. And this was an idea we had. And last year's series was very successful, so we look forward to continuing. But I would say many of the other departments, the children's department, the adult department, we program in the library, but do a lot of programming and collaboration outside of the library, and share our resources and our staff time and our expertise that way. So.
Anything else for Anka? I thank you immensely, because I think it's very important that we are doing this. Okay, let's move on into the items for action and discussion. Building and grounds. I see nothing. Technology. We've had our technology report. Finances. We've got 1 month without this change of budget, huh?
We haven't had change of budget for a couple of months.
Oh, okay.
But next month, we'll have some. Next month, it'll be 4 months in, and we'll have some changes for you.
Okay, let's move on to policy. And we do have a policy item that you received last month, the bylaws of the board. I hope everybody's taken a look at it. Do you have any questions at this time? We've removed a lot of things so that it is easier to manage, let's put it that way. Any questions?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. The next 4 items are all in your packet, are items for discussion, and hopefully you've taken a look at those, so let's kind of move through one of them at a time. Library circulation management. Anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask of the staff at this time?
The collection management you're talking?
It's a discussion for
Yeah, I know, I'm
for the
just,
library circulation management.
You said circulation is collection.
it's collection.
Oh, collection. I'm sorry. I just was thinking,
Yeah.
not reading.
No, I like the idea that the sameness is put in one document instead of repeating it over every department. It's a lot cleaner and easier to,
It is cleaner. Okay, if there's nothing to discussion, you would have an opportunity next month before we vote on it to discuss again the Children's Service Collection. Anybody have any comments on that one? Again, you will have next month to reflect upon it, but I hope you've read it already. Adult Services Collection. On page 4, I want to know whether under the first item, popular interest or contemporary significance and community needs, is that the same thing? Mary?
A combination of it.
Because it's breaking it out one more time, but I thought, that's really what we're assessing is community needs, popular interest or contemporary significance. I don't know.
That's a good point. We can look at it again and see.
Yeah, that's the only thing I saw in it. Anybody else got anything for Mary?
No.
Okay, then let's move on to the archives, to ANCA. The one I didn't see in here, ANCA, was the local organizations. You have itemized military, biological families, and local organizations, so it isn't listed, I don't think.
They are listed.
Are they?
They are listed towards the beginning, in a more of a summarized.
B.
In B.
I think that's the top.
Where is it? B?
B, yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay, organization
Organizational records.
records. Okay. That's the only one I had. Anybody having questions about those? If not, next month we will have a vote on those 4 policy statements. Education and training, do we have anything to submit there? If not, let's move on to the reports of the liaison groups. Friends, I don't think Anna's here, so we probably don't have anything. Do you have anything from them?
They have an upcoming book sale, and the upcoming book sale is November, I'm looking, 19th. It's November 19th, which is a Thursday, and it goes Thursday through Sunday. Thursday is Friends Night. It starts at 5 o'clock. If you're a Friends member, you can get in. And then if you're not, you can come on Friday and get it then. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is half price day, and Monday is free day. So we look forward to that. Get a nice big closet filling up with books very nicely.
Library Foundation. You attended the meeting this time, I did not.
So they're working on their annual appeal letter, and next month they will, Kathy is going to work with Mike Munson on last year's letter and see it was successful, see what tweaks they want to bring to it, and then there'll be a working meeting to, as a group, take a look and see if there's anything else they want to get the letter in the mail before Thanksgiving.
And they want to mail by.
Well, before Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
to hit the holiday season.
Yeah.
And they're looking at how they can increase the number of people who are donors, as well as they look to have a good number of people on the board, as well as potentially increase board members. So we'll see how that goes.
Heartland, Jeff?
I've been appointed or volunteered for 2 committees, personnel and facilities. So I'm starting to sort of get into this whole thing. They have a number of buildings that they rent or own, and one of which is the one out at the Research Park, which apparently they want to put more money into it than it would cost to rebuild it or something. So there's a lot of talk about their facilities and the condition of them. And they're trying to do an analysis of where to locate these points to make the delivery of books the most efficient, sort of like a UPS analysis. But they're also under the gun from the state because there's no budget, and they have certainly some reserves, but so far nothing's happened. But it may get to that point if it keeps going. I mean, and it's just a very interesting piece of business, all on the telephone and via teleconference. So It's like it could be like the landing on the moon, they couldn't really happen, and I wouldn't even know it. You know,
The Martian.
This facilities things, they inherited it a lot from everybody that combined, but I'm surprised that the one out here is being considered for being,
It's a roof and it's a parking lot, you know, there's just all sorts of
yeah.
things. So,
How much do we contribute to the organization? Do we, if anything?
They're funded through the state, which is why this is important that the no state budget has been passed. Both the rail system on the top part of the state and IHLS on the bottom part of the state. They're not getting their state money, so they're both living off the reserves at the moment.
Okay. But we don't make a monthly or a yearly payment, a membership
That I'm
payment?
aware of.
Okay.
and rails is sort of more compact, so they don't have the tremendous distances that we do
That
down
we do,
here.
yeah.
So they have tons of money in the bank, I don't know, where they're getting from. Millions of dollars.
A lot of wealth up there in
Yeah.
the Chicago library area.
Okay.
Report of the administrative staff. Do you have anything additional, Celeste, that you'd like to?
I do. I didn't get in the director's report, but we were approached by the News Gazette, and Kathy's going to manage this, but we're going to have library staff once a month write a book review for the News Gazette. And so the third Sunday of the month, you'll see our review from different people on staff. So we're excited to have that opportunity. We blog, of course, regularly on our website. And for example, different staff members have blogged as individual people with the News Gazette, written articles before, like Kasia Hopkins has done it for years, and Ann Phillips did it for years.
Yeah.
So we're excited to have it be the Urbana Free Library as opposed to individual people who happen to work at the library. And hopefully, if Kasia's interested, she'll do that, and other people who are interested as well. So
Will individuals be getting bylines?
yes, it'll
Okay.
have your name
Okay.
and a picture.
Do we get to pick the books, or they pick the books for us?
We get to pick the books.
All right.
And they want us to work on adult and teen. They've had someone retire from doing it, and that is the beat that is open.
And they
So.
pay us for this?
They do not. So we had that discussion, it's our intellectual property because we're writing it on work time, and so we will have them put it up first, but then we'll link to it as well, so that people can catch it one way or the other.
Yeah, because it's not that easy to get to their website if you don't subscribe. Yeah.
Even if you do, it's.
Yeah, you're right.
So that is one thing. Another thing is that we had put out a fiscal year 16 statistics sheet, but it needed a couple of tweaks, so Becky provided a new one, which will go up on the website. There are a couple things that I would point out, and the issues were in the final column, which is the year-to-date comparison. So the new one shows how these past July, August, September fiscal 15 to fiscal 16 compare. So if you take a look, you can see, if you look at just those 3 months,
Oh, I see.
that, for example, self-check went up from last year at this time, it was ranging 11 to 12%, and now we're at 18 or 19% self-check during the month. Our circulation is up about 5,000 items, was it? But if you look at the self-check of items, it's up by 14,000 items. So this column with the different formula being year-to-date, just the months that have passed compared to each other, you'll see a different story being shown, which is what we wanted to show. So the formula's in there right now.
Have any ideas why reference questions are down so much?
A lot of people look for information themselves, and that is a trend that we are seeing. And it's part of why we're looking at staffing in different ways, because the number of questions are being asked is decreasing, and it's, the past 4 months, it's gone down 4 months in a row. Yeah. And the definition of a reference question, Bill, is very specific, which we have on the back. So we get a number of computer technology related questions at any given point during the day, but those are not included under reference questions.
Did we start defining it differently within the past 4 months, or, I mean, have we started collecting data differently?
No, we do have the data on the number of computer questions, but what the state requires of us are what they define as reference questions, so that's what we show here. We do capture the other data, we have it on those hash mark tally sheets, but what the state requests of us is what you see.
Has that changed? recently?
Not, last fiscal year is the year that we made the change,
Okay.
because we had been reporting differently. So last year should be all what the state defines. So they should be apples to apples.
And the door count through September was okay, but this month it's gonna be back.
This
again,
month
right?
is gonna be off, and there was a question about August. So we're gonna confirm some August, because there was a glitch with the gates, but it could be that we had had the data a different way, and then it went down. We've had some problems with those gates.
Okay.
Oh,
Just
You want to say anything about that? A nightmare, huh?
I'm working very closely with Biblioteca personnel.
Okay.
Are
To
they making,
resolve them as quickly as
are they
possible.
making visible progress from your end?
Yes,
Are they treating it like it's important?
yes, but, we are, some of the expertise is so specific that we're kind of at the mercy of their ability to get technicians here to fix specific problems, because it's, it's not in MC's realm, to get that specific about it, so.
But how many-
They contract with people somewhere in the state, I believe they drive a couple of hours to get here, that have received training on Biblioteca hardware and software.
But how many months has this gone on?
Well, it's been different problems. It's been different problems. One time it was a reader, this time it's a circuit board, it's been software related. So it seems to be a different problem every time.
Is this a beta product
No.
that we thought was a finished product?
No.
But maybe it is a reminder that trying to get out on the leading edge of technology,
Yeah, believe
if
me.
there's no crying need for it, is not a good idea. It costs more, runs into a lot of problems, and it's one thing if you need it, but if you don't need it, it's good to be, it's good
But we're
be
trying to
trailing
beat it.
behind.
We're trying to meet the demand
Yeah.
and just do the job. I mean, it's not cutting edge necessarily,
Yeah,
would you say?
No, this was not an early adoption
Yeah,
kind of
no.
a.
Yeah, no, I'm not, this is sort of a middle adoption type of thing, just for future
Oh, yeah.
technology issues. It's a reminder that you're in the middle. It's,
Yeah, you don't want to be on the bleeding edge, do you? But we don't want to be just removing our key punch machines either, so.
So as part of the per capita grant, or whatever you were talking about, to show that more opportunities for patrons, would you list something like this dramatic increase in local history online, see online searches, that's more than double from last year? So is that something we can highlight somewhere, or how?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And we're actually making money on some of those transactions, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that really is an outreach and a service to patrons, so if there's someplace to highlight that, I would.
I'd be happy to. So then one other small thing, you have a new updated board orientation sheet, and a new resource came in today that I sent an email out, but I wanted to put it on the orientation sheet, which just got Friday, and it's already been updated. The American Library Association has the trustees group, and so they have, IHLS has purchased access to the trustees' tools. So I sent you an email with the password, and then this sheet has been updated, and I will send you, you've got the sheet itself. So you can just click through on the link. And if you're interested in, there's little tutorials, short tutorials about different things about being a library trustee. So if you have questions, let us know. It's something that IHLS is paying for as resource sharing, actually. This is another example of resource sharing. And then financially, did you have any questions for, we didn't talk about in finance, but is there anything finance-wise that you wanted to mention? I had Leslie's statement from IHLS about this is a tough time in the state. We do not know what will happen as far as the budget being passed, that no one knows what will happen. Our library receives about $52,000 a year from the per capita grants, which we will apply for, of course. We don't know if and when that money will come. So it's a $3.7+ million budget. 52,000 is not a small amount. And it's not the only place that the library could be heard if the budget continues to stalemate. The city is not receiving all the funds it should be receiving as a pass-through in a normal kind of budget year. So that may have implications for this city and the library as we go into the levy process, which start next month, November 9th or November 7th, whatever the first day is for that. So the city will start looking at the levy. You had sent a suggestion for your levy request a couple months back with the annual report. So just be aware that percentage of the budget-wise, the $52,000 isn't as much for the library as other libraries' percentage of their budget because of the 90% or so of our budget being property taxes. On the other hand, there are other pressures, including potentially having to pay more for the gas bill, wanting to give the staff the raises that you've held off on until we knew what was happening with the budget at the state level, with the per capita money. If we have to replace the heating and cooling parts of that, it looks like our gas bill it looks like we're using more therms now than we have in the past, whether that's because it was colder over the winter or whether it's because the system is just not working as well. We're exploring those things, but there are constant pressures we're experiencing right now to the finances that we have. And so I just want to put all that out there.
Yeah, I wonder if we shouldn't spend a little time looking at maybe establishing a line of credit at one of the banks, or working with the city if the city's thinking about that. Just not to tap it now, but tap it if we have to. I think we're looking at a short-term problem here, the battle of wills between the governor and the speaker of the state house. But it could be a while before that short-term ends. And I don't think we want to make any permanent cuts, things like that. Obviously, when the boiler goes, we have to have some money pretty quickly, and it might make sense to have this arranged now, that's in place if we need to do it for the short term.
And we will be looking at those options. What do we need to have ready in case something like that happens? We had looked at a potential loan agreement from the city last year, but we made it through the fiscal year.
But the city may not have it to go to.
That is correct.
And we may have to go to a bank to make payroll. The heating system and the payroll would be the two things that.
Those are pretty important. So the property taxes locally, this doesn't go through the state. The city gets those and does an immediate pass through to us. So again, the majority of our budget comes through for the local property taxes. But that is 10 to 12% that doesn't.
Right.
So we're looking to see, are we on target for fines and fees? Are we on target for that other 10 to 12%? And that's where that $50,000 from the state comes in. So we will keep looking to see, or the $87,000 that comes through with the personal property replacement tax. And that still is coming through to the city, and Elizabeth is still sending over our part of that. And
Does that come through monthly or quarterly?
It's, I think, is it 9 months out of the 12?
9 or 10, yeah.
It's something that's set in statute, so.
Yeah, and the fact that it's not the great majority of our budget is why I'm not opposed to looking at the potential for borrowing. I mean, obviously, in the long run, we can't borrow our way into solvency. It's gonna. But if we can get over the humps that are out there.
I will have something for you next month. I will have something to report back to you.
And have you had discussion with the city, let's say the heat H factor went out? Have you had a discussion with them, what we do?
Well, at the
What they can do for us?
At the moment, we have money, and if you look in the multicolored checking account statement, we have money in the fund that would help pay for that. But it's a matter of when we get to the end of the fiscal year, before the next fiscal year's, before the June money comes in.
Yeah.
That's the place where we would get stuck, probably at the end of March or April, we would have a bit of a cash flow issue. So I can talk with Elizabeth again about in a situation where the boiler failed and we had to pay out of pocket for the boiler, to get to the place where in June we get 45% of our income in June for the fiscal year in the last month in that moment. So I can take a look at that too.
If the boiler fails, has anybody looked into the possibility that being nature's way to say, go to a much more efficient heating system? Since you don't want to spend all that capital out of nowhere, you don't have to. If you have to spend a lot of capital anyway, maybe it's time to look at something that's going to give long-term savings, like geothermal, primarily.
That is we actually were talking about geothermal the other day and what the footprint would look like. Because It takes space, from what I understand.
A little space. Private houses are doing it just on their front yards, so it's not that much space.
Maybe we can talk more about that, because we have some pieces, we have some land on this side of the building, for example. So what we have talked about to date is more along the lines of replacing the air handler and boiler with technology that would be more efficient, but still the current system that it is. So I'm not aware of us, Kathy saying no. So maybe we can talk about that.
Anything else for Celeste? If not, Kathy?
On the gas usage, have you done an estimate how much at current rates we would be paying? Because the city's just getting a lump sum cash.
Correct.
Now, so what percentage of the lump sum should be ours?
That is the discussion that we are having.
Okay.
Because in the past, it was that the city looked at the city buildings as a whole, and the city paid for all the city buildings, fire station, city hall, the civic center, the
Utility,
library,
or
Tupper
the-
building,
yeah.
and they paid all the bills until all the therms were gone. And then at that point, the library paid its own bills, and the city paid its own bills. And so in concept, the $86,000 that the city's getting could flow in the same way. But what I don't have, and what they do have at the city, is they have all the individual bills. I know because Vince gave us the number of therms that the library has used, but the price per therm per month can vary. So we are working with them right now to see what has been the library's proportion of the therms that were available, how much was quote unquote spent on the library versus the city. So we're actively working on that. That's part of why it's an unknown, because I don't have those answers yet.
It's my understanding that at least for the initial few years, it's estimated that it shouldn't cost us anything. So that would be the goal, I think, for the first few years. And then
Yes.
who knows, what gas prices do, but that's the gamble.
And the city didn't have a lot of choices in the matter.
Okay, Kathy, do you have anything to add?
Did you want me to speak of that picture?
Yes, please.
I'm going to come over here so as I point to things, everybody will be able to see. This kind of dovetails with what Anka was talking about how fortunate we tend to be and are. And a lot of what we have is we are very fortunate that we have people in this community who have used the library for a very long time. This is a clipping from the Daily Illini from May of 1974, and the reason we have this is that 2 weeks ago, Adult Services did a program, Infinite Quest. It was about the life and work of David Foster Wallace. In the audience was a gentleman who happened to have this clipping, and he brought it with him. And he had it because this is his daughter. And in the picture is David Foster Wallace competing in the Battle of the Books at the Urbana Free Library. But the story doesn't end here. I posted this on Facebook because Carol thought this was a great human interest article to talk about. And when she put it out here, had a comment that from one of our shelvers, Meta, who you probably have seen her around the library. He works he's one of our baristas as well, makes a great cup of coffee. And he said, "That's me crossing my fingers."
Wow.
So now we have another person in the picture that we know of. And so I was like, I happened to be on Facebook at the time he posted it, and I was like, seriously? I was like, do you know who any of the other people are in the picture? And he said, well, I don't know who the young person is sitting next to me, but this young lady, her name is Madeline Strong Deal, and she is an author as well. And she's a poet. But then Mary adds a comment that said, and not only is this somebody whose daughter was in Battle of the Books, she was a shelver at the library. So this all unraveled on Facebook, and we thought, this is a great story. I used this, I spoke at the Illinois Heartland Library System last week on social media and library, and I shared this story because it's just such a wonderful way for people to connect with people in the community, but to have all those people connected to the library.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we should keep really good close tabs on people that participate in Battle of the Books and use it as a recruiting tool for future employees.
It also says something about our longevity of some, that we know people. Thank you very much, Kathy. Mary, do you have anything to add tonight?
Just some good news, the Fab Lab got a grant, not a DCEO grant of the Fab Lab itself on campus, that's going to provide 20 hours a week of staffing for us for a yet-to-be-determined time of extra help in the Fab Lab, which will be really great, and it will be specifically to help the teens use the vinyl cutter, perhaps teach classes, and if they write documentation, I want to steal it for seniors, because I see a great future for us making 3D walkers and stuff. But it's a lot of fun. I've been subbing down there while Joel was gone, and the kids are really enjoying it. So any additional help we can get that can spread the documentation and the technology to a broader base would be great.
Very nice.
You know, 3D walkers, as bad as that sounds, it actually starts to make more sense the longer you think about it. It's a growth business.
Lori's not here. All right, Anka, anything else?
Can I ask a question while we're on archives? So I saw that you're partnering with the Rantoul Historical Society, this renewed Air Museum. I thought I'd read that the Air Museum was gonna,
It is closed,
is that gonna
end of the year.
impact you at all? Are you gonna pick up anything from them, or?
I'm talking with them. Some of the material that, you know, they really need to get taken care of were airplanes, and couldn't pick those. Because they actually have to find new homes for them because the Air Force didn't want them back.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to spend the $50,000 that it would have cost for them to be shipped back. So they're being dispersed. And, you know, there's a lot of museum objects. So the Museum of the Grand Prairie is getting some material, but also museums. I think there's an Air Force Museum. There are various museums in the Midwest, in the United States. So there are a lot of material. It's being distributed. But I'm in touch with Mark Hansen, and he knows that material that is, you know, very specific to the county and the county's history.
I think they had a base newsletter, maybe we already have that.
We do. And we actually have quite a lot of material on Rantoul, also photographs especially. We have a nice collection of the Tuskegee Airmen, and so there's important history there. Yes, we hope to stay in touch with them, but it's very sad. There's just not enough support to go around.
Don, anything? No. Do we have any unfinished business tonight?
Just one thing, the order of business suggestions.
What about it?
Did you like it?
Oh, okay, that we had an order of business. I didn't know why it was there.
So the order of business has been pulled out of the bylaws. As you had pointed out that you
Yeah.
read in Robert's rules, it wasn't appropriate to have it in there.
It didn't have to require
And
it.
then a couple of people said they'd like it to be streamlined a bit. So this was something that we had mocked up as an example of what a month that we had done the other way, what it would look like with a new numbering system and breaking them out a little bit differently. Is this something that looks good? Are there other changes you'd like to have? We can give you one laid out like this next month.
Well, I like it, but then I think I wrote most of it, so.
Yeah, I like it, just for clarification, when it says call for executive session after current meeting, that would just be like, if you know that you're gonna have one, it's just like the informational item,
Yes,
Yes.
just so.
yes. And the one at the end is a call for future executive sessions, if you know you're going to have this time. The one that I would probably do, that I didn't think about when we did that, is also put the item number on top of the individual items too. So if we're at
Oh.
line 8.8A or something like that, put that up here too.
Okay.
But I suggest trying it. And
Yeah.
try it for a few months, see if it
Absolutely.
works, if it can always be tweaked.
Yeah. It's not in the document, it has to be, so we can do
Yeah.
whatever need to be done with it. Are there any items of new business to come before the board? If not, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, leave.
Just stay.